Alright, good evening, brothers and sisters. I'm over here at the grandparents' place, and they have these laser lights. This is my first time seeing them. It's pretty neat. It's pretty. I guess this is what happens when you're getting a little older and you don't want to put up lights. I'm not telling them I said that. Anyways, so I wanted to talk about this phenomenon that's been happening, or that happened over Los Angeles on the 22nd, I believe. A lot of people think it might be some sort of government aircraft or some sort of missile. I've heard several different things. Some people think it's demonic. Some people think it's from God and it's completely supernatural. And I'm not going to try to defend it, but I will say that I had an experience with this same plasma looking moving object, however you want to describe it, because that's exactly what it kind of looks like to me, like some sort of plasma energy. Very strange looking, I know, and if you guys haven't seen the video, please check that out. It's all over YouTube. So yeah, so to describe my story, my encounter with it, I've seen it before. I tend to believe that this is a very supernatural thing. Do I believe it's demonic? I'm not quite sure, but I'm leaning more on it's not, and it's actually from the Father, and I will explain why. This was just my encounter. I've seen the same exact thing at tree line level. So a couple years ago, this is when I was in high school, a couple years ago, I had a good friend of mine named Lane, and we would play basketball together. See, I lived right in front of a basketball court, so all I had to do was cross the street, and I would play it religiously. I really would. Like that was my favorite sport, and still is. So Lane and I would always bond over basketball. And this particular night, my family came from Miami to visit, and we had a sort of get-together party. And Lane happened to be at the park, because what we do is my cousins, they come over and we get together and we all make up our minds to go and shoot some hoops. It doesn't matter what time it is, we just go out there and, when we have fun. So we went out there and I saw Lane there, and of course I knew it was going to be a good night because we really bonded. So we played basketball, and the entire night God was using me. Christ was using me to speak to Lane and just speak the word of life into him, And he's a believer himself, but just like any of us, he kind of lost his way. It was just wonderful. It's just wonderful how God will use you in unexpected times, no matter who's around. And that's exactly what God did. There was about like 8 of us out there playing basketball, and for some reason, I just had to talk about Christ. I had to talk about Jesus. I don't like those opportunities to slip past me anymore, because after this event, I knew that there's just something special about not keeping Jesus to yourself, okay? Especially when other people are around, and I just couldn't hold that in. I had to talk to him about Christ. So I did. And our conversation was beautiful, and a couple of my cousins chimed in, and it was a great night. And actually, it was such a great night, in fact, that supernatural things happened that night, and I'll explain. So after we got done playing basketball, it was just Lane and I, one-on-one, just speaking about Christ, and he was talking about how he was going to recommit his life. So that's the point that Jesus got him to that night, was to consider his relationship with Jesus, and to consider a stronger bond in a relationship. And he was all for it after our conversation. So we went into more detail about our conversations, and I shared with him my supernatural experiences, the good, the bad, just everything, the things that God was showing me, the really nasty encounters with demons I've had. So we just had a full-blown on spiritual conversation. And man, this was crazy this night. we were having this conversation, and on this particular night, the stars, I mean, you could see a lot of them in my neighborhood, and that's really hard to do in my neighborhood because of all the street lights. But this particular night, the street lights were off, and you could see a lot of stars up there, and it was a great night to just have a spirit-filled conversation. So we started seeing shooting stars. Like I've never seen more than 3 shooting stars before at one time. And I think a lot of people have not seen that either. And I saw more than 3 on that one night that we were just talking about the Lord. And I knew it was significant because that's the first thing I thought about was, man, this really doesn't happen often, and we're seeing it. It was just a beautiful moment, And we just kept talking about the Lord. So that was the first thing that threw me off. The first thing that threw me off were the shooting stars. And our conversation just kept getting deeper and deeper. And the Holy Spirit, oh man, like the Holy Spirit was there. I mean, of course he's there, but I mean, he was there. You could feel it. You could feel it. He was in our conversation. And we just kept looking up and just talking about life, and the Lord was just continuously using me to speak with Lane, and I thought that was just wonderful. And that was probably one of the best nights of my life, to be honest with you, because we had such a heartfelt conversation. And man, so the shooting stars got to me, and it didn't end there. So on our way back to my house, we were just walking back. Something told me to look up, and I looked at this tree line, and right above the tree, I saw this blue plasma light. That's how I describe it, okay? That's exactly how I describe it. And what you saw in that video is exactly what it looked like, except it wasn't white, it was blue. And it just hovered there for a second. I saw this light, it hovered there. And my friend Lane saw it too, so there was definitely a witness there. He didn't know what to think of it. And when I had identified this object, in a second, this thing just flew off like a shooting star. It just shot out. And when it shot out, it looked exactly like in that video when you see it kind of streamlining, I guess you want to call it. And you see all that outer light or outer plasma. It looked just like that. Just like that. And it was moving, except it was blue. And it was tree line level. So it was really, really close to us. Really close. That tree was no more than 50 yards away. That's how close I saw this thing. And when it's amazing. When I saw this thing, I had a feeling of comfort in me. It's weird to explain. And this is why I believe that what that thing was could have possibly been something supernatural done by God himself. Or maybe some, who knows, it could be many things, it could be an angelic presence. But do I think it was necessarily an evil thing? A UFO or something like that? No, I don't. I personally think with the overwhelming sense of peace and comfort that I had when I saw this, and Lane and I both, I really think it was from the Father. And that's how our night ended. I mean, we saw more than 3 shooting stars at once. And then we get to see this thing hovering over us or near us. And it was just such a peaceful, overwhelming, spiritual-filled night, and that's why I always remember it. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much where I wanted to get at, is that when I saw this thing, it was like my spirit was telling me, just look over there. And when I looked, that's exactly where I was looking, was straight at this thing. And I'm telling you, I saw, it's almost the same exact thing, except different color, this plasma-looking light. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I felt the peace of the Lord on me that entire night, and even more so when I saw this thing, because I felt like the Lord was visiting us in a sense. And I might be wrong, and I hope I'm not wrong, but And I know feelings can sometimes be deceiving, but I hope that wasn't the case, because it was a beautiful night, and I personally think that it was the Lord that did what happened over Los Angeles. But I could be wrong, but I just kind of want to put two and two together, just to give you guys my perspective. I don't think it was an evil thing at all. I don't think it was a missile. I don't think it was some new government weapon. And like I said, I don't rule those things. I don't want to rule those things out completely, but when I saw what I saw on that video was just way too similar to what I saw that night. So take it as it is, guys. God bless you guys, and honestly, have a Merry Christmas and spend awesome time with your families. There are times where I can be a little religious, and a lot of us can be, and I really didn't want to come out and celebrate Christmas with anyone. I have my own gripes about things, and sometimes I think a little bit too much, but the truth is, for me, it's all about spending time with family, and we're supposed to honor God every day, no matter what. So I celebrate every day as if it was Christ's birthday, and I have conversations with him on a daily, and that's what I do. And sometimes people think I'm talking to myself when I walk around, and yes, I mean it. To the other person looking from the outside, yeah, I'm sure you can perceive that, and I might seem like a crazy person, but a lot of you do the same thing, and we're just speaking with our Father, and that's really how we establish this wonderful relationship with God. It's a daily thing. It's not just on Christmas, okay? It's every day. So I just want to encourage you all to spend time with family, and enjoy your holiday, enjoy your time off, and, well, we're going home soon. We're going home soon. I don't know how soon, and sometimes I get disappointed, but I guess that's just normal. That's human nature. We can't predict everything. We know that the time is soon, and it can happen at any moment, and I just don't want to give up, and you shouldn't want to give up either. So don't. I've come close within the past couple months of just saying, I'm done with this. Everyone keeps saying this, or everyone keeps saying that, or he's coming in the next couple of hours. Look, man, honestly, I was done with it, but the Lord is teaching me patience. He's teaching me patience, and he's teaching me even more now how to be excited for his coming the right way. Not being overly anxious, because when you're overly anxious, you start missing certain aspects of life that really shouldn't leave us. You start missing certain things. When I was overly anxious for all this, I wasn't talking to my wife as much. There were negative side effects to all this worry and trouble, and that's what it was. I was worrying about things, and super anxious, and the Lord didn't want that, because how are we supposed to occupy when we're only occupying our minds on one thing and one thing alone? I wasn't really working on loving people as much either, because I was so busy worrying about whether or not I was even going to make it. Would Jesus even take someone like me, or is it really going to happen on the 22nd, or is it really going to happen on the 21st? I was so consumed by this, and I'm to the point now where I know it's any day, can be in any moment, and I know it's going to be completely unexpected, and I'm okay with that. I have peace with it now. So, that's all I can say about that. I have peace with it. And God has just been changing my heart around, my views on certain things, and it can happen any moment, guys. Any moment. Any moment. Could it be on a specific day, a specific type of ceremonial day? Possibly. People were thinking it was going to be during Hanukkah, the 7th day of Hanukkah. That did not happen. Possibly. I don't think God would. I think the day that God chooses for the rapture to occur will be a significant day. But guys, it might just be significant for Him. We don't know it all, you know? It might just be a significant day for Him. I remember I keep thinking about the rapture dream that the Lord gave me, and how in that dream I heard people screaming, finally, it's here. And I was so excited, and I think it just took all of us by surprise, and at the same time it didn't. Because us who are truly watching, we know that it can happen at any moment, you know? But it's still going to be a surprise at the same time when it does happen, even though we're being vigilant. But I think there's going to be a pretty good surprise factor. So just hang on tight, because we're pretty much there. We're at the end. We've already crossed the finish line, okay? That's how I see it. We've crossed the finish line. So God bless all of you. Love you guys.